kind of wanted to introduce the Masons tonight because Estelle is a community that has put up a plaque over here, and the Estelle Lodge is named for Jefferson Estelle, and they kind of got some of their terminology wrong, but I wanted to straighten out all that. In 1855, Jefferson Estelle came here with his mother-in-law, his wife, and a niece named Nancy P. Van Zandt. His mother was a Van Zandt, which if you know Fort Worth, Van Zandt is a big name. He was a banker and brought the railroad to Fort Worth, or was instrumental along with Paddock and several others. But Van Zandts and Nancy came to Grapevine and married a daughter of Eli Mathis Jenkins. And his name was Irenaeus Plato Solon Dunn. Okay? Hell of a handle. Anyhow, Jefferson came here and he had 3 pieces of property. One of them was down at Callaway's. If anybody knows about the Callaway Cemetery, and he set up, I wanted to clear up a little bit here. Johnson Station was opened in October 31st of 1851. Birdville was 1851. Fort Worth was 1856. Jefferson Station, which is the namesake of Estelle, or whatever you want to call it, was opened in July 16th of 1857, and his brother-in-law got married, and they called Grapevine Dunville for a while, but it was opened August 4th of 1858 by I.P.S. Dunn. And I wanted to kind of clear this up because it's kind of important to me, because my mother, always had that in her repertoire of things to tell everybody. And Gerald and I are Gerald Estelle. John Estle's here tonight. And we were cousins from different legs of Jefferson Estelle. But he is the person that did it, had the mail delivered and so forth and so on, and then got it to Grapevine after that. So I kind of wanted to clear all that up and let y'all know. But this picture over here is of Eli Mathis Jenkins' store. And they found a tintype picture in the Masonic file cabinet about 4 or 5 years ago. And I went out and had a buddy of mine that's an artist do a rendition of it. And if you know what a tintype is, it's about as big as the palm of your hand. And it's made out of tin. I mean, and it dates when that was about 1856. And I wanted to thank the Masons for being such historic preservers and so forth. And you cannot talk about history without talking about the Masons, because they were the government, basically. And now we've straightened everybody out. So, anyhow, they have hospitals, schools, orphanages, and I can't even name all the things that the Masons have done for the communities around here. And I appreciate, being able to invite them to come and talk. So, Junior? You like to walk around the cell, I'll run out the door.
Well, Tommy's a whole lot braver man than I am, because he just admitted he's kin to Gerald Estel. That really gives me a different outlook than Tommy right there. But anyway, we want to thank y'all for letting us come back up here. We were here, what, about 3.5 years ago, but we were talking only about Grapevine Lodge at that time. Well, we're going to spread our wings a little bit tonight. We're going to have 3 different people here that's going to be giving you some information. When they all get through, if you would, I will line them up here and you can shoot questions at them all night long. I'll go home and they say you're an anthem. So, first of all, I want to introduce the officers of Grapevine Lodge here. William Hatfield is a working master. Where you at? There he is. John Wolf is not here. John's not here. He's Hector Lopez here. Okay, we'll get that over with right quick. We got 3 speakers tonight. One of them you can see on the board right up here, Bob Holmes. Bob Holmes is a member of Fort Worth Lodge. It's 148, meets at the Temple in Fort Worth. It is the oldest lodge in Tarrant County. By the way, Grapevine is the 2nd oldest lodge in Tarrant County. So I just want to throw that in. I don't want to miss out on anything there. The next man that comes up is Gerald Wildman. Gerald, I'm going to apologize first. Wildman Minster. If I got that right, I'll fry you a pie. But there's no way. Now, one thing that Grapevine Lodge has this year that we've never had before, we have a Grand Lodge, what we call the mainline officers, is a member of our lodge. And he's sitting right back here, and I'll refer to him as the most worshipful Grand Junior Warden of Masons in Texas. He, and in about 3.5 years, he will be the Grand Master of Masons in Texas. And we're proud to have him be a member of our lodge. Now, when Brett comes up to speak, y'all, if his eyes look kind of red, he's not looking right, there's nothing wrong with him. Because he and his wife just become parents of a little boy about 2.5 months ago, and the alarm clock in his house goes off a whole lot more than what he wants it to. So anyway, but he agreed to come out here and speak with us tonight, and I think you'll enjoy it. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and bring Brother Bob Holmes up and let him get on with his presentation to you. Bob Holmes.
I'll set that up like that. I'll be talking into it a little bit. Welcome, one and all. Again, good evening. Welcome to our Masonic program. There are currently 30 active Masonic lodges in Tarrant County. Freemasonry is the world's oldest and largest fraternity. Its history and traditions date back to antiquity. Some examples of the historic records, and all of those have a little bit of discussion. But we have a date back in the mid-1900s AD, when the first king of all England, Alastan, ruled. The king admired masonry, the art of, and the actual subject of geometry and the practice of building. The Freemason stonework expertise built under his patronage many castles, fortresses, monasteries, and abbeys, many still standing. The London Bridge, for example, took 33 years, the initial one, to build, from 1175 to 1209. Now, there's lots of London bridges. We've got one out in California, but the original one is the one that the Grapevine built. The Regis poem, or Halliwell manuscript, written information on it, date back to 1390 and 1392. The Masons Company of London carries a date of 1358, and then of course that it moved on in and made more records back in the 1770s. Freemason's singular purpose is to make good men better. Its bonds of friendship, compassion, brotherly love have survived more diverse political, military, and religious conflicts through the centuries. Freemasonry is neither a forum nor a place of worship. Instead, it is a friend of all religions, which are based on the belief in one God, the higher power. Many of our nation's early patriots were Freemasons, as well as the 13 signers of the Constitution, 14 presidents, starting with Masonic brother George Washington. Today, the more than 14 million Freemasons around the world come from virtually every occupation and profession. Within the fraternity, however, they all meet as equals. They come from diverse political ideologies. They meet as friends, and they come from virtually every religion and religious belief, but they all believe in one God. Freemasons are respectable citizens. We're taught to conform to the moral laws of society and abide by the laws of the government under which they live. They are men of charity and good works. They remain unchallenged as the world's greatest philanthropist. The Freemasons of America contribute $2 million plus every day to charitable causes which they alone have established. These services to mankind represent an unparalleled example of the humanitarian commitments and concerns of this unique and honorable fraternity. Just a few of the examples locally in our state and around nationally. Masonic Children and Family Services, Masonic Heritage Foundation, Texas Masonic Home and School Foundation, Texas Masonic Retirement Center, Texas Scottish Rite Hospitals, the Shriners Hospitals for Children, Shriners Burn Centers, Knights Templar Eye Foundation, just to cover a few. Our program has been scaled down because we could talk about each lodge all day long, and there's 30 of them. Tarrant County, Texas, and the Masonic Lodge. Tarrant County, Texas, one of the 26 counties created out of the Peters Colony, 1849. Tarrant came from the Nevada County aspect of it, 1849. Today, Texas consists of 254 counties. Many are named after men who fought in one or all of the wars for the Republic of Texas, the state of Texas, the Civil War. They were patriots, doctors, lawyers, politicians, mayors, and professionals of every kind. Today, Masonic lodges in Texas currently number 872, estimated members 85,000 plus. As I was talking to Jerome and everything, we kind of mentioned the fact that even during the Republic of Texas, all the presidents, vice presidents, and the body politics were Masons. When it went to statehood in 1845, the governors and all of the politics continued to be in line, just like in the 13 colonies. All of those governors and political people were Masons at the time. These four men are Tarrant County Masonic Brothers. They provided their time and substance for the early county establishment and growth. General Edward H. Tarrant, the county namesake, was mentioned when he was a veteran of the war, 1812, Battle of New Orleans, 1814-15, Colonel of Tennessee Militia, Sheriff of Henry County, Tennessee, helped form the Parish Lodge in Tennessee, moved to Texas in 1830. Member of the House of Representatives of the Second Texas Congress, Texas Ranger in 1838. 1838 and 39, he served as Chief Justice of Red River County, elected Brigadier General of the Texas Militia 4th Brigade, served 2 terms in the Texas House of Representatives between 1849 and 1853. General Williams Jenkins Worth, City Fort Worth namesake, served also in the War of 1812. He was a commander of the cadets at West Point, served in the Mexican-American War under General Zachary Taylor and General Winfield Scott, was placed in command of the 1st Division. In 1849, he was placed in command of the War Department of Texas. At the time, Texas was divided by a line of trading coast-type forts from the Red River to the Rio Grande. The last fort to the north was Fort Brigham in the Lake Whitney area. So that left from the Lake Whitney area up to the Red River unprotected. This, from there, Worth ordered Brevet Major Ripley Arnold Allen and his company F of the Dragoons to proceed to the now Fort Worth area and establish an outpost. Brevet Major Ripley Arnold founded Fort Worth and named it in honor of General Worth. Unfortunately, General Worth died of cholera in 1849 without ever learning he was so honored. The fort was closed in 1853 and moved further west as Fort Belknap. The buildings of Fort Worth that were abandoned were used and repurposed, and the fort became a city. Fort Worth, Texas, Tarrant County seat. Colonel Middleton Tate Johnson, sometimes called the father of Tarrant County. He was a Texas Ranger and politician. He first moved to Shelby County, Texas, secured his 640 land grant. He served in Congress of the Republic of Texas and Senate. He served in the Mexican War and received another land grant at what is now Tarrant County. In 1849, Johnson accompanied Arnold to the area of the Clear Fork and West Fork of the Trinity River to scout a location for establishing an outpost, later renamed Fort Worth. Masonic Lodge can't just start up without getting permission from the closest lodge to it, because they might be building on top of each other. The closest Masonic Lodge, Fort Worth, 148, in 1854, was the Mother Lodge of Dallas, formed in 1847, Tannehill Lodge 52. The original members are so listed there: Crockett, Worship Master Williams, Senior Warden, Junior Warden, Acting Treasurer, College Secretary, and Tyler. They were set up under a warrant, the only lodge sold. The rest of them that we will talk about are 30, and others will be by charter. This evening we'll mention the first 8 founding lodges from the mid-50s, 1850s to 1900. Masonic Lodge 148, Grapevine Lodge 288, Mansfield Lodge 331, Arlington Lodge 438, Smithfield Lodge 445, Deer Creek 510, Espel, you'll notice the spelling, 582, Hazel 601. 2 in the middle that were originally charted as other lodges and then later changed. Classic definition of Freemasonry: system of morality, veiled in allegory, and illustrated by symbol. In craft Freemasonry, sometimes known as Blue Lodge, every Masonic Lodge elects or appoints Masonic Lodge officers to execute the necessary functions of the lodge life and work. All the lodges in the given nation, state, and region are unified under the authority of the Grand Lodge, sovereign to its own jurisdiction. Most of the lodge officers listed below have equivalent offices in the Grand Lodge, but with the addition of the word Grand. Worship Master, Senior Warden, Junior Warden, Treasurer, Secretary, Deacon, Stewards, and Tyler. As before mentioned, Fort 148 was the first lodge in Tarrant County under dispensation in 1854 and chartered in 55. To repeat, the first Masonic lodge at Tarrant County was Fort Worth 148. As was customary, the closest lodge to Fort Worth Masonic Lodge 148 that the brothers could petition for charter in 1854 was Tannehill Lodge 52 in Dallas. Fort Worth Lodge petition was approved February the 27th, 1854. Most Worshipful Master Grand Worshipful Master William M. Taylor of the Grand Lodge of Texas signed the approval dispensation March 18, 1854. On April 14, 1854, the first meeting of the Fort Worth Masonic Lodge 148 was held under dispensation. Worship Master from Tannehill Lodge, Worship Master John M. Crockett of Tannehill was presiding. There was just enough members to fill the stations, as you see on the board. Worship Master Julian Bell, Master Senior Warden, King Junior Warden, Rice and Presbytery, John Peter Smith Secretary, Steele Senior Deacon, Wilson Senior Deacon, Tupper Tyler. Once the principal officers were in place, business in the first meeting included setting the time for future meetings, which was initially the first Saturday after each full moon. During this time, the principal officers, as well as other Masonic brothers, discussed the mission, which was to grow and continue to perpetuate growth of the Masonic leadership in Fort Worth 148. The gatherings led to new members being inspired by the Mason and Masonic activity within. As a result, the lodge held promise of the young city and county's desire to grow and to prosper. In October of 1871, the lower story of the two-story lodge building was incorporated as an addition to the lodge in a special act of the 12th legislature of the state of Texas as Masonic Fort Worth Masonic Institute. The brothers of the Fort Worth Lodge were excellent advocates of growth and achievement, not simply within the confines of the lodge, but more important in the city and county surrounding. The prosperity of Tarrant County was imminent and due in no small part to the character, education, and leadership of the Masonic brothers. And we all know number 2, Grapevine. I'll have our brother Jerome talk to the historic Grapevine after I finish. Mansfield Lodge, 331. Soon to follow Grapevine was the Mansfield Lodge, Masonic 331. Chartered in 1871, meetings were held at the Mansfield Lodge on the third Saturday of every month. The principal charter were Worshipful Officer Master Oath Moody, Senior Warden Collier, and Junior Warden Davis. Brother Moody was a fraternal point of light in Tarrant County. He was the Worshipful Master of the founding Fort Worth Lodge 148 in 1857. He continued his long fraternal imprint as the principal officer of the Worshipful Master of Mansfield Lodge 338. Arlington Lodge. The first Arlington Lodge, 438, as we mentioned on the earlier slide, was originally chartered by the Grand Lodge of Texas as Johnson Station Masonic Lodge, 438 in 1875. Meetings were originally held at Johnson Station, Tarrant County, on the fourth Saturday of each month. The original principal officers were Worshipful Master Hayter, Senior Warden Burnett, Junior Warden Hitchens. The first Worshipful Master, Brother Hayter, was a Presbyterian pastor, preacher, and often referred to as the Father of Arlington. Hayter brought expertise from his religious background as a preacher to his experience as a surveyor, to his capability as a civic leader. When Brother Hayter came to Tarrant County in 1869, it was not long before his professional experience became well known. As the tiny community continued to develop, keeping business current became more and more difficult without a post office. Hayter wasted no time in petitioning for a post office. Later, Brother Hayter was asked to assist in bringing the convenience of the railroad through to Tarrant County. His expertise as a surveyor qualified him for the task, and he did not hesitate to get involved. The Hayersville community was strategic. The railroad owners wanted to name the new town Hayter. However, Brother Hayter turned down the honor in favor of naming it Arlington. The Arlington House had been the home of General Robert E. Lee in Arlington, Virginia years ago, and to commemorate Lee's membership in the Masonic Brotherhood, Hayter named the Hayterville community Arlington. As a result, the original name of the Masonic Lodge was changed from Johnson Station to Arlington. Along with this some clicker, you have paper reading. Okay, we've got Smithfield Lodge. Not long after Arlington Lodge was established, the Smithfield Masonic Lodge, number 455, which was originally petitioned the Grand Prairie Lodge, 455, was chartered in 1876. Again, meetings were originally held at the Masonic Hall near the Zion Church in Tarrant County on the Saturday on or before the full moon each month. The original principal charter officers were Worshipful Master Sanson, Senior Warden Hightower, and Junior Warden Wittenberg. Brother Sanson Jr. was not only a Methodist preacher, but he also served as a Texas Ranger and as a militiaman for the Sovereign Republic of Texas. Many multiple disciplines. His influences were an honorable credit to him, his family, his community, and the Masonic fraternity. In the last quarter of the 19th century, Deer Creek Masonic Lodge 510 was chartered in 1879. Meetings were held near Oak Grove in Tarrant County on the first Saturday each month, on or after the full moon. The original principal charter officers were Worshipful Master H.C. Hildreth, Senior Warden J.N. Ogletree, Junior Warden J.T. Hagan. Another notable fact is that Childress and his wife Rachel had only one son, born in 1936. His son was Graham H. Childress, who later became the 150th Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Texas, bringing with him the history of the Childress family. Ancestrally, the Childress family was related to George C. Childress, the one that led the Committee of Five, who wrote the Texas Declaration of Independence. Estelle, and as I joked earlier, you mentioned spelling. that ESTILL got changed to ESTLLE when it went to Washington. And I guess the bureaucracy wanted to have their own way, so it stayed that way. Tommy's skin, folks, as you just mentioned. Estill Masonic Lodge No. 582 was chartered in 1883. The surrounding community of this lodge was named Estill in honor of the Estill. They said it, some of the history said the architect, but some of the things like that, like all history research, well, you give it more than one thing. Irregardless, the surrounding committee of this lodge consisted of 2 floors. The upper room was where the Masons held their meetings on the first Saturday of each month, and the bottom floor was one and only school of the community at the time. The community was able to have a school because the Masons paid for a teacher until the community and the school could get on their feet. The Masonic Brothers believed in being an advocate of education in the community. Here, the principal officers were Worshipful Master Bureau, Senior Warden Martin, and Junior Warden Burks. The Masonic Brothers of the northern part of Tarrant County organized their fraternal leadership by establishing the Azle Masonic Lodge 601 in 1884. Meetings were held in Azle on Saturday, on or before full moon. The principal charter officers were Worshipful Master Bourne, Senior Warden Wiley, and Junior Warden Fortune. As the 19th century came to an end, extraordinary Masonic sway in Tarrant County was imminent. Masonic Brotherhood was not only a strong proponent of education, but the Masons believed in taking care of family, their own and the ones in their community. One of the most important missions the Masons initiated was establishing the Masonic Widows and Orphans Home for women who had lost their husbands and children who had lost their fathers. The Grand Lodge of Texas, as early as 1872, had a vision and initiated action to care for women who lost their husbands and their orphan children. The funds for such a large-scale statewide project were not available during this time, so the mission was met with a challenge of finding funding. Later in 1895, the Grand Lodge had not given up the mission. The decision was to fund the Masonic Widows and Orphans Home based on an accumulated endowment funds that had been collected over time. The funds were there, and it was time to act. The action began with Grand Lodge soliciting proposals, requesting land and money from various statewide lodges, Masonic lodges. The specification, quote, "It is believed that the purpose of the home will require a tract of land containing not less than 200 acres, suitable for agriculture and conveniently located near some city or large town, with a good supply of wood and water. And it must be a healthy environment." The Fort Worth Lodge 148 was a banner lodge of the state, and the brothers decided to take on the task to compete for that. They took that endeavor underway. The Grand Lodge asked for those. 8 proposals were received. The original list was narrowed to 3. They were thought to be the 3 viable locations: Fort Worth and Tarrant County, Temple and Bell County, and Granbury and Hood County. Fort Worth, when the vote was taken, Fort Worth received 846, Temple 788, and Granbury 46. Fort Worth was declared the winner and the Grand Lodge resolution accepted its proposal. Fort Worth Lodge members were present. First Master Presley, Senior Warden Jones, and Junior Warden Paddock, the one that ran the Fort Worth Democrat, kind of early cartel type, and the members. Though the decision had been made, finalizing the Fort Worth Lodge proposal required additional real estate and legal paperwork. Those necessary papers were completed on January the 7th, 1899. A special meeting of the Grand Lodge of Texas was held in Fort Worth to lay the cornerstone of the Masonic Widow and Orphans Home. The Masonic Home School, as it was called, was a very important and impressive responsibility of the Grand Lodge. In the end, as I wind up, the Masons and their lodges facilitated much of the early community and city planning, governance, education, and commerce. Their service and dedication marches on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. He ended up here on the Masonic Home and School. As most of you know, a few years back, they actually closed the Masonic Home and School. But the Masons continue to take care of those kids. Those kids, the way I understand it, Brad, they're fostered out into homes. The Masons pay for their doctor bills, their school supplies. In other words, they're still taking care of the kids. That's something they've always done, and Grapevine played a big part in that also. At this time, I'm going to bring Jerome up and let him, now he's going to center in on Grapevine a little bit. Now, some of you heard some of this before, but we'll let him go through it and tell you a little bit about what the Grapevine Lodge members have done since they opened up the Grapevine Lodge and what they had to do with the government and city of Grapevine. Jerome, you want to hold this? Turn it off?
Sure.
Why?
We can't hear you. We're old. Yeah, exactly.
You speak up or I'm gonna hold that back.
I think I can speak loudly enough, everybody can hear me. If you can't hear me, hold up your hand. Bob, that's a hard act to follow, but I'm going to do my best. Grapevine Lodge just celebrated 153 years of being in Grapevine. By the way, does anybody need to be home before 10 o'clock? Brad wants to go home and see his new baby. Honestly, I'm going to keep this very short. There are a few things I would like to tell you about Grapevine Lodge and the work that the Masons have done here in Grapevine. As Bob said, our lodge was founded in 1866. And if you didn't catch it, when a new lodge is first formed, they have a temporary piece of paper to say, okay, you guys can meet for a while, but then you're going to have to pass a bar. You're going to have to pass inspections. We did that, and we got our final warrant, which we still have. It's hanging in our lodge in June of 1866. Interesting story having to do with that. Our worshipful master, 1866, had to go to Houston where Grand Lodge was meeting to take the necessary paperwork and money, because you know, like we didn't go to an organization, it takes money. And since he was going, he also took returns from Denton Lodge 201 to Houston with him on horseback. That's the only way to get from Grapevine to Houston. He got to Houston, checked into a hotel, went to bed, got up the next morning, He was short a bunch of paperwork and some money. It had been stolen. Somebody stole, got in his room and stole the money. However, Grand Lodge said, hey, things happen, we'll cover you for it. So that was how Grapevine Lodge got started formally, officially. Many of the members of Grapevine Lodge had been here for a while. The earliest families arriving in 1845. From those people from 1845, several were chartered members of our lodge in 1866. Some who deserve mention are Dr. J.C. Dunn, Zeb Jenkins, somebody mentioned his name earlier, Eli Jenkins, Philip Hudgens, and Reverend Ian Hudgens. I need to mention two people in particular. One was Reverend Daniel Starr, who was a Mason and one of our chartered members. He was the father of the first mayor of Grapevine. And another person whose name has come up here this evening, Jefferson Estel. He was a Mason. He was a chartered member of our lodge. And one of his descendants is still a member of our lodge and is with us tonight, Gerald Estel. With us here. By the way, we know that over time your lineage can't continue. People move, families die out, but at least through the 50s, many descendants of those original members were members of our lodge. You can imagine that in a small town the size Grapevine was in, there weren't a lot of people, and the lodge was small. But among that small number of men were 4 preachers, 4 doctors, 3 teachers, the first postmaster of Grapevine, a Texas Ranger, a state legislator, and Grapevine's blacksmith. There have been several, but he was the guy at the time. From the 4 preachers sprang the First Baptist Church. A lot of people don't know that. First Baptist Church here in Grapevine, founded by a Mason. The First United Methodist Church and the Grapevine Baptist Church. These were the first churches established in Grapevine. Other Masons were among the leadership of founding members. Let's face it, said a minute ago, you got to have money to make things work. Contributors to the churches to get them started, get them on their feet. Grapevine's first newspaper was founded by a member of Grapevine Lodge about 1880. In 1888, another member of the lodge, and you might have heard of this gentleman, J.E. Faust Sr., established our first telephone system. Most people think of J.E. Faust in the funeral home, but he was actually a businessman here. He said Grapevine needs a phone system. Although it was not until 1915, Grapevine's first dentist was a Mason and a member of our lodge. He was also mayor of Grapevine for 2 or 3 terms, I don't remember, but he was later became mayor. Now, as Bob mentioned a few minutes ago, several of these lodges were in 2-story buildings with the Masonic Lodge on the 2nd floor and a school on the 1st floor. So it was no innovation for Grapevine Lodge to do the same thing. In 1869, Grapevine Lodge opened the Grapevine Masonic Institute. And although there are some people who would banter about this point, it was the first school in Grapevine with an established curriculum and a staff of paid teachers. So we had a good start to a school there, you know. Continued operation until 1886. Some of the operating funds came from tuition, grants, donations to the school, but any shortfall had to come from the members of the Masonic Lodge. So if teachers needed salary, which of course they did, the principal, any operating costs, you know, running internet into that school was just a tremendous So any of those extra costs were covered by the lodge. The school board was made up of members of the lodge. So we had a regular school board, just like GCISD has a school board now. They were all members of the lodge. Over the period that the school was in existence, most of that time, a member of the lodge was the principal of the school. And of course, there was somebody with some teaching credentials and so forth, but most of the principals. Now, in operation for about 10 years, there were over 700 students went through, attended Grapevine Masonic Institute. A lot of them, of course, when the school closed, continued in Grapevine College. So, although it wasn't a college, that's what they called it, it was a high school. But I guarantee you, into the 20s and 30s, a lot of people in Grapevine talked about going to school at the Grapevine Masonic Institute. So that covers the early days, as Bob did, up through about 1900. And I guess I didn't mention it. We're still here since 1866. Grapevine Lodge has continued to contribute to the history of Grapevine. From the first mayor, Mark Starr, I mentioned him a little bit ago, to our current mayor, Bill Tate, a member of Grapevine Lodge has been mayor for most of the years we have had that form of government. Think about that for a minute. A member of our lodge has been mayor for most of the years we've been mayor. Many of the fire chiefs and police chiefs have also been members of our lodge. Additionally, Grapevine Lodge has made significant contributions in other areas. We have a person in our lodge that came in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and he has just taken the bull by the horns and organizing so much in our lodge. And I would like to ask him to come up just for a second and talk to you about the charitable work that we do. And before that, I want to say one thing. Masonry is not a charity. We are a group of charitable men. So Royce, and Royce learned about charity and Masonic charity at a very early age.
I did, thank you. And Bob, thank you very much for your presentation, because it's always nice to see the history of the Masonic home and school. My parents were killed in a car wreck when I was 5, and my grandfather, aunts, well, not aunts, they were Eastern Star, my uncles, they were all Masons. So I was able to go to Masonic home and school. So my second grade year until I graduated, I was a student at Masonic home and school. So thank you very much for that. But my name is Royce, and I'm a member of Grapevine Lodge 288, very proud member of 288. And we were able to do a lot of things in the community this several years. One of our programs I'm very proud of that we participate in is the Fantastic Teeth program. Now, you've seen up there the Masonic Children and Family Services. They're the ones that provide the Masonic lodges across Texas with dental kits that we go around to elementary schools to the first grade classes. And this year, the Masonic Children and Family Services provided 655 lodges across Texas, 231 of the 254 counties in Texas, a total of 1,689 schools, for a total kits distributed last school year of 134,570 kits. That's very good numbers. Our numbers are a little bit less, but we're still very proud of what we were able to accomplish. Last year alone, we visited 5 of the elementary schools here in Grapevine. We distributed 525 kits, and over the last 3 years, 1,125 kits. Last year we were in 5 schools, and our goal is to hit all 11 schools, and we are working diligently to hit that goal. And I think in the next few years we'll have that goal met. Another program we kind of created was called Community Outreach. I was talking to one of the school nurses. We were sitting there admiring some of the things in her room. She goes, "Oh yeah, my husband bought this, my husband bought this." And I said, "Well, what did the school buy?" You know, and feeling sorry for her husband. And she let us know about the very small budget that they work with. So we kind of went back to the lodge and talked amongst us, and we knew that there was an opportunity there. And from talking to the nurses and stuff, we came up with just a small budget first year of $1,500, and we were able to buy like diaper wipes, hand wipes, crackers, juice, Gatorade, because they were telling us how the students would come to the class at school, stomach hurt, but they just didn't eat breakfast, so we were able to provide that for them. The second year, last year, we had a $3,000 budget. Between the last 2 years, we were able to purchase, the lodge was able to purchase 7 little mini refrigerators, 8 tabletop ice makers, 2 otoscopes for the ears, and a nebulizer, and a fingertip oximeter, and several other items. But, so we were very proud that we were able to do that for the schools. And the first year we were in 4 schools. Last year we were in all 11. So we know we can reach our fantastic T goal because we hit this goal in a matter of 2 years, hitting all 11 elementary schools. And we were able to provide the snacks, so to speak, twice a year for them. We do it at the beginning of the year and then in January after Christmas. So that's our community project with the nurses. And another thing we do is a scholarship program. We provide 2 $2,000 scholarships to the students, to the high school students of Grapevine. So Grapevine High School and Colleyville High School. We give them forms, they fill it out, turn it in, and we have a committee that read it, and we award 2 scholarships. And one thing different about our scholarship is we have a awards night at our lodge, banquet, so to speak, and that night, the winners, we bring them their families, and we give them a $1,000 check right there. So they take that and do what they need to do with whatever the case may be. And after the first semester, they send us their transcripts, and all pass and everything, we send them another $1,000 check, and we repeat that. Now, the good thing is last year we were able to award 3, so we hope our program continues to build. And as far as other things, our last thing we're really trying to do is this year we're getting to the Santa Cops program with the police department, so we're hoping to be a good effect in that. And as far as the nurses go, we were wanting to help them out, but we figured that was a good group to work with because they see about 6,000 students a year. So, we couldn't go to every teacher to help them, but we feel the nurses is a good program to be in. So that's basically what we have going on right now. I'll take any more time. If any questions, we'll be up here to answer anything I'd like to ask. Thank you all very much for your time.
I hope you see how the history, the story of Grapevine Masonic Lodge are intertwined. In the last 150 years, over 1,400 men have petitioned for membership in our lodge. That's quite a few men. We're currently at a membership of about 225. Those guys who petitioned our lodge include preachers, teachers, doctors, businessmen, and city leaders. Despite their diversity, these men at medical level acted by and parted upon the square. These men have been the squared stone as the foundation of Grapevine. Thank you.
I don't need that microphone, I'm pretty loud. I hope you see the Grapevine Lodge does do things besides just meet and eat. Second Monday of every month. I mean, I'm proud of it. I mean, Bill Powers, they didn't used to do that years ago when we were starting out.
No, they did.
You've been there longer than I have. But anyway, now at this time, I will refer to him the title, our most worshipful Grand Junior Warden of the Masonic Lodge of Texas, Brother Brad Billings. Y'all may have to prop him up a little bit, but he'll be all right.
The podium is the right size here.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Want to thank y'all for coming out tonight. Can everybody hear me? It's a great crowd. I'm going to go a little bit off script from my original notes. Had I been here earlier, I would have seen all the lunar landing stuff. And just last Saturday, I wasn't able to make it, but we had a meeting that commemorated that event. For those of you who don't know, when Buzz Aldrin went to the moon, he had 2 flags, 2 Masonic flags, but then one was a generic Masonic flag with square compasses. One was a flag from the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite. And he also took with him a dispensation from our Grand Lodge to claim the Masonic jurisdiction of the moon for Texas. When they landed in the Sea of Tranquility, that's where we got the name for the lodge that the charter had. So now it is called Tranquility Lodge in 2000. And if anybody questions me on who has the largest Masonic jurisdiction in the United States, I tell them, well, we got all of Texas and all of the moon. So everything is bigger in Texas. So we've heard a little bit tonight about Tarrant County and our founding county, and we've heard a little bit about Grapevine, our community. So it makes sense that I would get to talk a little bit more about the fraternity in a broader sense. And so I want to talk tonight a little bit about the missing link. I know when I say missing link, some people probably think Darwinism and evolution. We're not going there. But we're going to talk about the missing link in history. And I'm going to illustrate this through a kind of a story that I had about two people I really enjoyed learning about as a young child in a small West Texas town. And those were the adventurers Lewis and Clark. I was very interested in their lives and what they did. And every history book I had ever read said that these guys were just acquaintances, that they had just met in the military, almost like it was just by happenstance or chance. So if you read a textbook, I think still today, that is the only coincidence that they were in the military together. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going on a 9,000 mile trek into this pretty tough wilderness, I want somebody there that's more than just an acquaintance, right? In fact, you want somebody that's more than just a friend, right? Because when it comes down to saving lives, sometimes your friends, you may or may not be there, right? You want somebody that you can trust your life with. And in this case, these two men happen to be Freemasons. So was it coincidence? Maybe. But the fact that they set out on this great journey together, trusting each other with their lives, I think can't be overlooked that they were both Masons. In this case, I believe Masonry was the missing link between these two. George Washington had 22 generals, I believe if I've got my numbers right, 22 generals. Of those, every single one was a Mason. That's statistically impossible to do unless you're trying to do it, right? Same kind of thing, right? But if you're not a Mason, you don't see that. They don't teach that. Also, every defender, both defenders of the Alamo, both Bowie and Crockett, the commanders, they were both Masons. And most of what we consider our Texas heroes were Masons. So it is interesting to me that when we focus on history, we can look at their religious affiliations, we can look at their political affiliations, even their societal affiliations, but oftentimes we just completely forget or are oblivious to their fraternal group that they belong to. And 9 times out of 10, if you look at it, two guys just meet up and go off 9,000 miles together. What was it? It was their fraternal relations. In this case, it was the missing link. So the question becomes, is this a society that makes great men? This is often asked. Or is it the great men that make this society? And whenever I first joined, to me it was kind of a chicken or an egg. Okay, which one came first? But the more I studied it, the more I looked at it, I realized that this is neither black nor white, but more of shades of gray, as most things are when you look into it. And certainly, we are a society that's based on eternal truths, we're based on morality and virtue, something I think we can use more of in the world today. You may agree with me. But it's based on the ideas of temperance, fortitude, prudence, justice, faith, hope, and charity, or love. So of course, when you're based on these great ideals, these truths that extend beyond time, of course we're going to attract great men. And so for over 300 years, we've been attracting some of the greatest men of history, and we heard about some of them here tonight from our local county and city. But Masonry also does something great for those men, and that's that it unites them into one common purpose. Masonry at its core is a brotherhood that unites men of every country, religious sect, and political opinion. It basically says when we meet, we don't talk about those things. We focus on our community and how we can improve it and make ourselves better in the meantime. And it conciliates true friendship among those who, like Lewis and Clark, may have otherwise remained at a perpetual distance. So when you have a melting pot, like the United States was in its formation, or when you have a group of young Texians that are all coming together as immigrants and to form a new nation, it makes sense that Masonry would not only be a uniting force, but a driving force in the future of those nations. This small but powerful group of men who formed Texas, they worked together to chisel a civilization out of what was then a very crude frontier. And so I'm going to stop there, but I'm going to admonish you guys as historians and people that are into history. Whenever you come to a point in time, you realize that a couple of people got together and they started something great, and there seems to be no reason. Maybe look for the fraternity. It might have been that missing link. And then I'll tell the guys that are in the room who are not Masons here tonight, if you are interested in what I've said, not just our history, because obviously we know we have that in common, but if you're interested in our ideals or our principles, we're interested in talking to you about Freemasonry. And ladies in the room, y'all go in candid. If y'all know a good man who might be interested in becoming a Freemason, we're interested in talking to you about that opportunity as well. And who knows, it may just be the missing link in their life. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much. By the way, how many Master Masons are in the room tonight? Please raise your hand. All right. How many Eastern Star members are here tonight? We got y'all surrounded. I promise you that. Yes, Bruce, come on up, Bruce. Bruce is a member of our lodge. Everybody knows Bruce. He's always got something to add to it, some wisdom.
Thank you. Can it be heard? Yeah.
Come closer.
I'm very proud of been a Mason for 47 years, and I have great friends there. Sometimes I get discouraged. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was injured in the war, and I can have my post-traumatic stress times. But what brings me back is the service of people in this room, people in Masonic Lodge. My name is out of this building. I was a member of the board here for 30 years and have contributed some other ways. But sometimes the news gets tough and the world gets tough, and is it worth all the things that we're working on? Then I go to the scholarship night, and these young people are wonderful. They competed for these scholarships. The nurses are wonderful. The things that these young Masons have done to make our lives better. So I find in the Masonic tradition a great strength for the positive things in life that make our nation great, make our world great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce is also a past master of Grapevine Lodge. Brad, you opened something up for me a while ago, and I've got to tell this. One day this last week, with the urging of our children, we'll call them 50 years old, they talked us into doing this ancestor deal. And she had me in there spitting in that tea. Well, we sent this in about a week ago. Of course, it takes 6 or 8 weeks. Well, today, this afternoon, I was sitting at my computer and heard her right there, and she hollered, "Junior!" Well, hell, I jumped. I thought something happened to her. She said, you remember Lewis and Clark? Yeah, I went to school Grapevine. They taught us a little bit about it. Well, she's up to about 6 or 8 great grandpas and grandmas in this thing. Lewis was a Merriweather. Lewis Merriweather, her mother was Merriweather. Lewis was in her family chain. I don't know if that makes it any better for us or not, but I think I'll. That happened this afternoon, then you brought it up. We have, I'm not sure what we're gonna do here, but we have a distinguished member of our lodge that's here tonight, and that's Travis Matthews. Travis is a 63-year member of our lodge. I'm not gonna ask him to get up and come up here, but if we want some recognition here, I believe I'm right. I'm not sure, with Tommy, were you gonna handle this, or? Well, I'll just keep pedaling till you come take it away from him, but I can't get this mic out that far.
Linda's going to make the presentation.
Okay, we will let Linda take care of it then, right?
Here you go. It's
If we need to
represented
sit
by
down, we got
the
a chair
Historical
right here.
Society.
Travis was secretary of the lodge when I went in the lodge 53 years ago. And we worked him so hard, he finally quit. I'm gonna turn this over to her, what you want to do here.
On behalf of our family, I have been designated as the spokesperson to talk about my favorite Mason, who happens to be my dad, Travis Matthews, and I dare say he's the oldest Mason in the room at 96. Travis James Matthews was born in Ponder, Texas on May 17, 1923. After high school, he worked for Consolidated Aircraft for 2 years before enlisting in the U.S. Army Air Corps in August 1943 at the age of 20. Travis served his country from 1943 to 45 in the Pacific Theater of World War II, having been trained as an aviator and as a radar and radio specialist. After the war, Travis returned to Denton, Texas. He married Doris Nell Irwin in 1947. And in 1949, he graduated from North Texas State University with a degree in accounting. Travis worked in the contracts division of LTV for 33 years and retired in 1984. In 1952, Travis moved his family to Grapevine, where he still maintains a residence. He served his community for many years as a member of the Grapevine City Council and the Grapevine School Board. Travis faithfully served his church community at First Baptist Church of Grapevine as a deacon and a Sunday school teacher. Travis was initiated into the Grapevine Masonic Lodge number 288 as an entered apprentice on June 14, 1956. He passed the degree of Fellow Craft on July 12, 1956, and was raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason on August 16, 1956. Travis served as Tyler of the Lodge from 1958 to 1960 and as Secretary of the Lodge from 1960 to 1974. Travis is grateful for the many relationships he has shared with his Masonic brothers during the 63 years that he's been a member, and proudly donates his Masonic Holy Bible and white leather apron to the Grapevine Historical Society Museum this 22nd day of July 2019.
Travis, you gotta make a speech, we're not gonna let you get out there easy. There you go.
Well, it's been a long ride. I've been doing most of it.
Get out of this thing. There you go.
I've been fortunate to have a good job most of the time, and I have a good family, and the Lord has been good to me. That's about all I got to say.
Okay, if we would at this time, I would like for Bob, Fred, if you come up here, I hope, and I know we're probably gonna have some questions, and Jerome, where'd you go? But anyway, if you have questions, man, I've got a wealth of knowledge up here with me tonight. So if you have questions, fire them at us, and we'll have one of these gentlemen help out and answer them for you.
Oh, it's $1 a question.
It's $1, well, if you're on sale tonight. No, anyway.
Could put them in auction or something.
Anything anybody says, I mean, don't, they holler about this secret. I've been in this lodge 53 years and hell, I ain't found them yet, so. But anything you have that you'd like to ask, just, yes, ma'am.
Was there any significance to the fact that some of the meetings took place the first whatever after the full moon?
I told you we had to answer.
Absolutely. Besides having a moon on the lodge, technically, we had what we call moon lodges. So obviously at the time, the only way to travel when a lot of these early lodges were formed was by horseback. So after the meeting, you had to travel home at night. So it made sense to do it on or near the full moon. That way you could travel back and have more light. And actually, we have a handful of lodges that still hold to that tradition to this day. So, yeah.
Good question. Hey, somebody smoking?
Yes, sir.
On TV, Channel 13, when they do that English stuff, there's a 15-minute break, and you did a quite talk on, or quite think about the football team that was over at Fort Worth.
You don't leave that?
Okay, just a minute, we may get some first-hand help on that. Bill Powers is sitting back there, and I know Gerald Escalade. Now, they're a lot older than I am, see? So, anyway, when I was from high school, we didn't play them, but Gerald and Bill Powers played them in football. But anyway, the Mighty Mites, Rusty Russell was the coach. The Mighty Mites?
Mighty Mites.
Okay.
What year is sponsored?
Oh, what year did y'all play them, Gerald?
I don't know.
Well, you graduated, but, Bill, what?
Here's
46 to 47.
You played 46 and 47. Gerald played in the 50s.
There's a book out by Jim Dent, I believe, called 12 Mighty Orphans, and that covers the whole story. But they were basically the football team of the Masonic School.
Was that home close then?
Yes, that home was closed. In 2005, I believe, is when we officially closed it. And it became more advantageous for us to do it through the many foster care systems and things that were set up, rather than to have home. The home when it was set up, you had to take your children there and leave them, so it wasn't a place for parents. So if you had one parent or whatever, they had to take the
You
kid.
wonder about the inspiration those kids had to play like that.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know the full story, and Bob might know more than I do, but oftentimes they didn't have enough to make an offense and a defense, so they left both sides of the ball. And I believe when they started, they didn't all have shoes, so they would go out and play barefoot.
That makes you mean, right?
They were rambunctious bunch.
Yeah, like he said, when they started, they didn't have much at all. They actually didn't even have a football. They took a cloud can and patted it around and put it in an old sock, and that was their football. So those boys didn't have uniforms that matched. I come from a little old school where we played six-man, and a lot of us didn't have that type of uniforms either. Sometimes we'd play without a chin strap, and you don't want to play football without a chin strap. So the Masonic Home School Mighty Mites did that same thing, and they were really so, oriented to hard work and rough and tumble playing and everything that coach got them into a situation where they can tackle harder, take more punishment than even, say, a polytechnic school that had a lot of extra players. That little 11-member team would just blast them right out. And they won so many times and so often that the big Class A schools, we don't want to play them anymore. Lubbock and Polytechnic and Corsicana and different ones like it.
Okay, now we're talking a long time ago, but we got an incentive to play football for them. But it wasn't that far back. Roy, what did you play over there?
In 1980 to 1984, and
We got a lot better equipment than they have.
Still the Mighty Mike,
Still 90 miles.
Really?
In fact, he and his wife both graduated from high school there, am I correct?
I'm better in second grade.
All right. Well, they don't will. All right.
One of the stories before that we leave the mics, they went to Dallas to play one of those big teams, and the people over there, felt so sorry for them, they bought uniforms for them.
Oh.
They wore them one time and then went back to their old stuff.
Bad luck.
All right, anybody, come on, if anybody got any questions, we got them lined up here, so. Any comments, any questions, or anything?
That's it.
All right, listen, folks, we appreciate the opportunity to get out in front of the public. 20 years ago, we wouldn't do this, but we've been hurt for the last several years, and every time we have a chance to do it, we hold open houses. Come by and see us, visit with us, we'll show you the lodge room, we'll pay you everything we can. I thank you gentlemen for coming up and helping us out today.